So that when I talk about product, that means when you multiply their gradient, you should always get -1. So remember that. So at times, you'll be given, you'll understand better after looking at this example. So D 8.5 and E -4.1. So these are 2 points. So D and E are 2 points. So the first question, is find the gradient of line DE. Then the second question now, find the gradient of the perpendicular line. Okay, so the first one, find the gradient of that line DE. The second one, find the gradient of the line perpendicular to the line DE. So we have 2 steps. The first step, that is A, we are told to find the gradient of the line DE. Just like I said before, label the points correctly. Then after that, write down the formula of getting the gradient, I insist. So y subscript 2 is 1. So there we have 1 minus 5 over minus 4 minus 8. So that is minus 4 over minus 12. So this gives us the gradient as 1 over 3. So that's the gradient of the line DE. So the second part now, we are told to find the gradient of the line perpendicular to DE. Means we are talking about the gradient that meets the line DE at 90 degrees. So if we have this as our DE, the line that is perpendicular to line DE is any line that meets DE at 90 degrees. So here now it is upon you to remember that the product of the gradients should always be -1. So you need to write that down first. So for part B, so you need to write that M1 times M2 equals to -1. That's the first thing. Where in this case now, M subscript 1 represents the gradient of the line DE, which you already have as 1 over 3. So where there's M1, you'll put 1 over 3. So in this case now, for us to get the gradient of the other line, we need to make M subscript 2 the subject of the formula. That means we need to divide both sides by 1 over 3. Divide by 1 over 3. Divide by 1 over 3. And that will give you this as -3. So the gradient of perpendicular line to DE is -3. You can make a quick check. When you multiply these two, it should always give you -1. So you can quickly multiply 1 over 3 times -3. What do you get? -1. If you don't get -1, that means there's something wrong. So you need to go back to your work and check where you've made a mistake. So far, that's fine. We've talked about now gradients of parallel lines, gradients of perpendicular lines. So we are going to move on to see how to find the midpoint of a given line segment. I think that's our second last objective, if you can still remember. Finding the midpoint of a straight line. So to find the midpoint of a straight line, you need to know the coordinates of the endpoints. You need to know the coordinates of the endpoints of that line segment. And we have the formula for that. Now suppose you have a line have the line P, Q. The coordinates of Q is given as subscript 2, and P, X subscript 1, Y subscript 1. So when I talk of the coordinates of the endpoints, this is what I'm talking about of any given line segment. So the midpoint is simply the point that is in between the two given points. And this is the formula. Always remember this. The midpoint is given by x1, x subscript 1 plus x subscript 2 divided by 2, comma, because they are coordinates, y subscript 1 plus y subscript 2 over 2, and then closer. So this is a formula, please highlight it or put it in a box. Always remember this formula. Always remember that formula. So for example, now you are told to, I'll give you one example. We have A814 and B -4, -4 are 2 points. So the question is, find the midpoint of the line AB. So here also, please, I insist, from the formula that we have, you need to label your coordinates, as always. Then again, I also insist you need to write down that formula so that you don't confuse the coordinates. So the formula of the midpoint, remember I told you writing this formula will not take you a century. So once you have the formula, you simply now substitute the values. X subscript 1 is 8 plus -4 divided by 2. Remember we are getting the average, comma, 14 plus -4 over 2, close the brackets. So just note that plus and positive times negative is negative. So this simply means 8 minus 4, which is 4 divided by 2, will give you 2. You can use your calculator. 14 plus -4 simply means 14 minus 4 gives us 10, divided by 2 is 5. So that's the coordinate of the midpoint, as simple as that. So what you need to do, please, we are running out of time. So just remember our objectives. Now you should be able to read the coordinates, plot the coordinates. Should be able to find the gradient of a line given 2 points or given an equation. you should be able to interpret and obtain an equation of a straight line in form of y equals to mx plus c. You should be able to find the gradient of parallel lines and perpendicular lines, and you should also be able to find the coordinates of the midpoint. So I would give you a small exercise. And try to do this exercise. So the equation of a line is given as 2y equals to 3x plus 4. You are told to find the gradient of that line. Part B, find the coordinates of the point where this line crosses the y-axis. Number 2, so number 2, find the gradients of this line. So A, y equals to 4x plus 3. B, y equals to 1 minus x. And lastly, number 3. So A, find the gradient, call it line L. B, find the equation of line L. And lastly, find the midpoint of the line L. I think those are enough exercise for you. So that will bring us to the end of our topic of today. I wish you well. Stay safe. Thank you.